Live from the news hub at Adesawe Kanda in Accra, this is News at 10. You can follow our live stream on the internet at 3news.com and on our Facebook page. Let's begin the bulletin with today's news highlights. Former Presidents John Ejekum Kufuor and Jerry John Rawlings have endorsed the Council of State's relevance and suggested it should be reformed and opened up to the public. They made the observation at the second edition of the Accra Dialogue Series organized by the Institute of Law and Public Affairs of GIMPA and supported by Media General and Frederick Egbert Stiffstone Foundation in Accra. The Special Revenue Mobilization Task Force of the GRA has embarked on a tax compliance distress call to businesses within the Greater Accra region. In a test purchase by the team, only 3 out of 40 companies were complying with the issuance of VAT invoices. And Ghana's inability to regain its status as #1 cocoa producing country have been blamed on youth dislike for cocoa farming. A principal research scientist of the Cocoa Research Institute, Dr. Mercy Samoa, said enticing the youth into cocoa farming will increase production. And Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga says he will go to court to challenge the results of last week's presidential election. At a news conference in Nairobi, Mr. Odinga said the opposition had collected enough evidence of what he called computer-generated fraud. Those are our major news highlights. Remember, we're also live on 3FM 92.7. Now, civil society groups want government to deal with reported cases of corruption against state officials despite the delay in the setting up of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. At a meeting with President Akufo-Addo at the Flagstaff House, the group also called for the quick passage of the Right to Information Bill.
This is the second time President Akufo-Addo is meeting civil society since assuming office. The practice is expected to be a quarterly engagement to deliberate on issues of national interest.
That we have an opportunity to build a much stronger and more durable system of governance, which hopefully will translate into also allowing us to deal with the issues of poverty in our country, how we can build a strong economy that generates jobs and allows our people to have hope and build a society where the young Ghanaian can see his future here in Ghana.
The group led by the Executive Director of CDD Ghana, Professor Kofi Jimabwedi, commended government for efforts to establish the Office of the Special Prosecutor, but raised some concerns.
Here we are, there's considerable public frustration. I feel frustrated with the lack of action on the many allegations of official corruption exposed in the media. The President, takes some consequential actions to address these allegations. So, Mr. President, we recommend the formulation and communication to the public of the government's plan for dealing with at least some cases of alleged or reported corruption in the period between now and when the OSP commences work. We note that in your campaign you had actually said something like publicly declaring your own assets. So if you can remember to do so, we'll be both delighted.
Let's get on to Skype now and speak with Edem Senanu, who is the co-chair of the Citizen Movement Against Corruption. He's on Skype now. Mr. Senanu, good evening. We're grateful that you could join us. Now, the prosecution of public officials, public officers, the president says he does not want to rush it and that he requires solid evidence first before these things can be done. What's your thought on this?
Well, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers as well. Yes, we had a very frank and honest discussion with the president this afternoon. he spoke mainly from his own experience as an attorney general and gave the given how many cases could easily be lost where the evidence was not well gathered and put together. From his own personal experience, it was important to make his slowly in order to try and get away with specific actions that they ought to be held culpable for. We find that that's a fair approach to take, except that we are concerned that there ought to be some cases where they already believe they have substantive evidence and for which they can make the public know that, look, relating to this specific issue in this case, we intend to take immediate action within a certain time frame. And so we're saying, look, the people of Ghana appear to be getting a bit disillusioned about the pace at which these things are going, and some extra effort in that regard would maintain the confidence of the citizenry.
So when you say some extra efforts, exactly what do you mean? The president has laid his card. He's going to set the office of the special prosecutor. That's what he wants to do as a first step of fighting corruption. So anything else? What are you suggesting?
No, well, actually, our proposal was to say, yes, we are aware that and we have made a lot of contributions to the OSP, and that we are solidly behind that idea. All of us in civil society believe that this ought to be done as soon as possible. But in the interim, we did not want it to be seen as if we are all waiting for an OSP to be in place, and the process itself might take a while. And so we thought that there ought to be some things that are being done now that could be highlighted so that we can see that the commitment to the fight against corruption was being taken seriously.
There's also the argument of making public assets declared by public officers. How ethical will this be within the context of the law?
Well, the current law does not allow that. The current law simply says you put it in an envelope, you go and live with the Auditor General, and that does not allow for verification, let alone being able to trace if there has been any underhand dealing such that an individual has enriched himself at the expense of the public purse. And so it's one of the pieces of legislation that we think there must be a serious review to bring it in line with international best practice, such that we can validate what people say they have, and when they are leaving, we can cross-check and be sure that they haven't gone well beyond their means to acquire other properties and assets that we know should not be, could not have been assets purchased or owned within the time frame.
And have you made these suggestions to the president?
Yes, we did, and he was embracive of them. That's looking for it. As a start, he said that all his functionaries had already made the necessary declarations. What we said was that it would be useful to have a list of those who have actually done so, so that it's not just something secretive. Indeed, one of our members indicated that some years ago they had engaged Parliament, and Parliament had agreed to this process to the extent that it did not bring in or bring on board other family members, etc. But they were willing to make this a public declaration.
Right, Adam Senanu, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much. Adam Senanu is co-chair of the Citizen Ghana Movement. Let's move away from that. Government will soon establish a commission of inquiry to begin the processes leading to the creation of additional regions. This was revealed by President Akufo-Addo after he received the Council of State's recommendations on the proposals to create the regions.
Having studied the petition submitted and the detailed briefing by the Honorable Minister for Regional Reorganization and Development, it is of the unanimous opinion that there is a substantial demand for the creation of new regions in the country.
I think that matters like this are matters that ought to be determined with dispatch, so that the body politic of Ghana can gain from stability and knowing exactly what is the next step ahead of us. I don't intend to dally too long about the composition of the Council of the Commission of Inquiry. I think very soon you'll hear about the next steps that we're taking. And by constitutional instrument, we'll set up the Commission of Inquiry and frame the terms of reference, which are relatively straightforward to do.
Right, let's get onto the telephone lines and speak with development expert Asar Mohammed. Good evening, sir. Thank you. We're grateful that you could join. Now, the argument as to whether creating more bureaucracies, that is, districts, regions, will promote development and reduce poverty has been an ongoing one. As a development expert, I want to find out where you stand when it comes to this.
Yeah, good evening. I thank you very much for the opportunity given. I think it's important for us to put it very clear that it's not necessarily creating more regions or creating administrative system will increase bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, as we know, is sometimes is created by the human own way of administration. So it's important for us to also understand that creation of more regions has its positives and negatives. And it depends on where we stand and what we want to actually achieve from that particular objective. We have 10 administrative regions now, with the last one that we added was somewhere in the 1980s, where the Upper West region was carved out from the Upper region. Now, when you look at the Upper West region, which has been created, you can see that there's tremendous development in that particular corridor of the northeastern part of Ghana. Yes, there are several reasons that people will always argue that creating more regions will bring development. One, if you're able to bring people of like ethnicity together, sometimes they're able to think together and come out with very fundamental solutions to some of their challenges. For instance, the Upper West region I would like to talk much about, which was created not quite long. You could see the people of that part of Ghana were able to really harness some of their common abilities into development. Recently, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I remember to be part of a process that region unanimously agreed that they needed to come together to be able to develop a strategy that they can really follow to achieve the total development of the 11 administrative districts that have been created for that region. So if you look at it from this point of view, from the ethnicity point of view, it's important that sometimes you are able to bring people together from one like ethnicity. And you can take that across the world. If you look at it, the formation of the United States, you can see that each of the states have some unique generic characteristics that bring them together. So it's important that as we have taken our development up to this time, after 60 years, we need to really look at realignment, because we will not pretend that people are not comfortable, belonging to some part of some regions in Ghana, and in many ways has led to undesirable outcomes that we have not really been interested in to talk much about here. But it is very important for us to understand that the more we create more regions, we need to take advantage of the purpose of doing that, but not just look at it from the political point of view that I'll create more regions, and I do it.
Right, Mohammed Asar, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much. This is News at 10. We're still live from the News Hub here at Adesawe, and we're streaming live on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7. Welcome back. Now, at least 600 people are still missing following a mudslide and flooding that devastated parts of Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown. Homes in the hilltop community of Regent were engulfed after parts of the Sugarloaf Mountain collapsed following heavy rain early Monday. Many victims were asleep in their beds when the disaster struck. President Ernest Bai Koroma has declared 7 days of mourning while pleading for urgent support. Nearly 400 people are confirmed dead after the mudslide in the Regent area and flat elsewhere in Freetown Monday. The Red Cross has warned it is a race against time to find survivors. Let's go to Sierra Leone now. Kelvin Louis is president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. Is joining us. Kelvin, this is a very sad thing. How are the people coping, Sierra Leoneans coping with this massive disaster?
Well, there's truly a lot of grief around. People are still mourning for their dead ones, and it's really very touching when you hear stories about whole families being wiped out. There was a soldier, a military officer who just came back from serving in Somalia. His whole home was washed away. There are several, all the stories are so bad. Families of 8, families of 5, people who had, families who had even were just staying, had just come over for holidays, and it's so bad. A couple of children who have moved into their best student's house just to study for their exams, all of them wiped out, and so I saw religious leaders come to pay respect at the bottom of the hill there. They said to me that a group of one of their churches was holding an all night of prayer, and about 25 to 30 members, all of them were wiped out. And it's so sad. People are still crying, and this morning people were going to the mortuary to identify their dead ones.
It's I can imagine. I can imagine the terrible grief that has engulfed the country, Sierra Leone. The Red Cross is saying that it's warning actually that this is a race against time to find the missing persons. What is the state of relief as government, state agencies and other support? What is the state of relief like? Is relief coming at all?
Well, relief is just kicking in. As you know, today is like the 3rd day. Relief is just kicking in. WFP has started providing some food items. One of the mobile companies, to AfriCell, is already moving around the community, giving out foodstuffs to survivors, clothes, and the government has set up tents and that sort of thing. But in terms of the race against time, when I spoke to the commander who was in charge of operations, Colonel Barr, he told me that in the next 2 or 3 days he would advise that the whole search be called off because they were not finding whole bodies anymore. As I stood there this afternoon, there were 3 corpses. Well, they were not really full bodies. There were limbs. There were just parts of people that were being excavated, and it was very touching.
Very sad. Kelvin, we're grateful for your time. But before you go, I want to find out whether you can tell us whether the government has agreed on plans for mass burial for the dead.
Well, yes, yesterday, like I said, limbs, severed limbs, headless torsos were bagged up, and 139 of them were buried. Today, those who were able to identify their relatives were allowed to take the corpses and give them a burial. and the government has said tomorrow they would do a mass burial, but mass in the sense that it would be a lot of people, but each of them would be buried in individual graves, and they were talking to the Interreligious Council to have an interfaith service so that they would be given dignified burials.
Right, Kelvin, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much. Kelvin Louis is president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. Our condolences with the families in Sierra Leone who have lost relatives. A very sad situation across our neighboring Sierra Leone. But let's move away from that. Former President John Agyekum Kufuor and Jerry John Rawlings have endorsed the relevance of the Council of State and suggests it should be reformed and open up to the public. They made the observation at the second edition of the Accra Dialogue Series, organized by the Institute of Law and Public Affairs of Gimpa Law Faculty and supported by Media General and the Frederick Egbert Stiftung Foundation in Accra.
The Council of State is enjoined by the 1992 Constitution, Chapter 9, Article 89, to counsel the President in the performance of his functions. However, the advice is not binding on the President. Critics have suggested its abolishment, arguing it has outlived its relevance. But former President Jerry John Rawlings rather wants a more rigid selection process.
A member of the Council of State must possess certain characteristics: honor, courage, truthfulness, love for country, love for human beings and people, and above all, spirituality. We must ensure that the processes for pre-qualifying, electing, and appointing these members are tightened up.
He added a carefully chosen Council of State is an asset.
A well-chosen Council of State is an asset to a government, but only if its members show nationalism, initiative, and boldness. If they tend to be passive, meeting the prescribed 4 times a year and doing only what they are asked to do, then the council is a very expensive body.
Former President Kufuor reiterated the relevance of the advisory body, but asked for a more open dialogue on its activities.
Left to me, the council would be termed the second house. That should operate openly, not in camera, and shouldn't be perceived as an exclusive advisory body for the president. And I said so because in my first term, the council, I would say, was generally made up of very, very proven, public-spirited people of great experience and achievement.
And the Boeing 747-400 series from NAS Airlines has landed in Accra to airlift the first batch of Muslim pilgrims in the capital city to Saudi Arabia. Chairman of the Hajj Board, Sheikh I.C. Quay, warned pilgrims to desist from drug trafficking and carrying any material banned in Saudi Arabia.
The Hajj Board will start airlifting pilgrims Wednesday night from Accra to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The whole process officially started at 3 p.m. August 16. Pilgrims were taken through various checks to ensure a successful journey. 506 pilgrims will be airlifted from Accra each day to Saudi Arabia. The last flight will leave Accra on 22nd of August to Saudi Arabia. Management of the board says consistent education for prospective pilgrims has helped to prevent most of the problems usually encountered during the Hajj pilgrimage. 6,200 pilgrims are expected to take part in this year's Hajj. The Deputy Director of Communications for the Ghana Hajj Board, Zach Rahman, says the board has conducted a screening exercise for prospective pilgrims to ensure an incident-free pilgrimage.
We ensure that every single person that lives here is very fit. If there is any problem that we need to come in and solve, we do that briefly. Otherwise, there is no way we would allow people who are not very fit to travel. That I can assure you. If you are not fit, it means we stop you from traveling. You probably bring any other relative that you want the person to go on your behalf, or we just refund your money back to you.
Chairman of Hajj Board Sheikh I.C. Quay advised pilgrims to adhere strictly to instructions in Saudi Arabia.
You are seen, you are found with weed, you'll be in trouble. You are found to actually carry cocaine, you'll be in trouble. And then child trafficking and all that and so, all prohibited. Even in Ghana, here in Ghana, when you are caught doing child trafficking, you'll be in trouble.
Sheikh I.C. Quay was confident this year's Hajj will be devoid of eventualities. Some of the pilgrims spoke to TV3.
For me, how they said it is stressful and everything. When I came, I didn't say it that way. I live in Europe and I decided to come and pass through here. So they were asking me, we'll go through Europe, and I told them, no, I have to come to my people and be with my people, and I'll feel comfortable. And alhamdulillah, everything has been fine. I'm going with Al-Balad, and they told us 12:30. 12:30 exactly they were here, and I had my passport and everything within 10 minutes.
I heard from a grapevine that as of those years back, when you get in here, it's not the same day that you leave. But it seems like I came in today and I'm leaving today, which makes a whole lot of a difference between what I heard and what I have seen.
We wish them the best on their pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia. And that's how we draw the curtains for News at 10. I'm Stephen NT. Thank you for making time, and thanks for leaving your dial on 3 FM 92.7. On behalf of the crew here, good night.